Old folks are habitual early birders, especially the seasoned country people. Ray's grandmother Ermin was no different. She was a determined and strong-willed old woman who practically raised him single-handedly. Her daughter had died during child's birth, and back then unfortunately baby fathers were usually absent. Ray had grown up to be a sound-minded and ambitious country bumpkin that did well at fulfilling his dreams of growing up fast, leaving the dull country life behind and becoming a police detective in the big bright city. He landed an uptown office job with the Special Branch Police Department, working on top cases and mingling with the rich and the famous. Ray was basking in his dream life, had a nice house, a nice car, and great friends. Later he met and proposed to the sophisticated and educated Pamela Innswood, who was a teller at the Uptown Commercial Bank. Things were going fine, and Ray visited his old granny often in the country, making sure she was taken care of and was contented. Ermin adored her beautiful granddaughter-in-law and was bursting with pride and joy over the announcement of the upcoming wedding. She was even more proud of her grandson, and she often reflected back on how they had nothing and had endured a life of hardship, and what they had now was a blessing from God. Ermin's previous little shack was now a decent-sized cement block house in the little district of Red Ground, and the residents loved and respected her for her kindness, strength, and godliness. A month before the big day, Ray sent Ermin an official wedding invitation. The event would be held in an upscale community at the luxurious top-of-the-line Golden Dragon restaurant, which was catering strictly for 60 guests. The kind of wedding Pamela wanted was costly and almost consumed all of Ray's hard-earned savings. Nevertheless, he was contented with his decisions and wouldn't want things any other way. An hour before the nuptials, Ray, his best man, and groomsmen were immaculately dressed and chilling in the private lounge at the prestigious restaurant when he got a phone call that immediately changed his mood. He felt a sudden burden and his chest tightened. He was agitated and tried to hide his shock. Nonetheless, his best friend since police training school and now best man knew something was wrong. Ray immediately excused himself from the group and hurried outside with Kirk behind in his wake. On their short walk out to the parking lot, Ray was almost speechless and could barely stutter out what had happened. It just didn't make any sense, and he was appalled and shocked out of his wits. Ray's granny had turned up at his wedding in a big old and crooked bus loaded with uninvited country people, most of who knew him since he was a boy in Red Ground District. Apparently, with one invitation, Ermin rounded up all or most of the district folks, hired the most humongous old country bus, and brought them all to the big city at his private wedding affair. How could Granny do such a thing, and what was he going to do now? The wedding was a catered affair. He could strangle the daylight out of his old granny for being so thoughtless. He was weak to the knees from disbelief and felt like collapsing to the ground as sweat from anxiety gleamed all over his smoothly shaven face. Ray's mind went blank from the anger and confusion, and he gasped at the hideous sight of the old dented country bus, lopsided and dusty from the red dirt country roadside as it sat dominantly in the parking lot in the midst of a line of the most posh and luxurious motor vehicles from Kingston City. Ray's brows tightened. God, his biggest day was going to be his worst embarrassment, a growing disaster. His heart raced with confusion and distress as he walked up to them. The bus was ugly and the tires had deep red dirt set in their grooves. Ray shook his head and felt insulted by it all. Probably it was raining in Red Ground when they had left early this morning, he thought. The journey into the city was usually over 3 hours, and with a run-down old bus as that one, it could take up to 5 hours. Ray made a good-faced greeting and hugging back as his country folks filed out one by one, bursting with happiness and pride as they congratulated and warmly embraced him. Ray's country folks were dressed in all sorts of the wildest colors that did not even come close to the wedding color scheme. They were the most outdated and outrageous fashions he had ever seen. He was so uncomfortable as he thought about his fiancée Pamela. His heart skipped a beat. She was going to have an ulcer when she finds out, he decided silently, and was slowly slipping away on the verge of insanity. The old women of Red Ground pride themselves in wig-wearing, and God knows he wasn't being harsh or critical, but the ones he noticed could do well with some oil sheen, scissors trimming, and for Christ's sake some proper grooming. He hissed with disapproval. They were definitely going to attract all the attention at the wedding. Wrinkled old faces showed off heavy angel face powder makeup that made them appear ghost-like. Ray moved mechanically in a daze as he hugged and fixed a smile while the ecstatic group cramped and stifled him with their unsettling presence and variety of drugging fragrances. Several minutes later, Ray's mind snapped back to reality. His chest was pounding hard. He had to do something, and fast, so he told them to sit tight in the bus and he'd send an usher to get them assigned to their seats as soon as possible. With that, he rushed to rectify the growing chaos. It was an impossible task, but he had to do something to repair the damage. Country folks don't blend in well with city people, especially city snobs. He was in dreaded anticipation about the inevitable. This was going to cost him both money he didn't have and, worse, the embarrassment to make such a drastic change at such short notice. This set on a growing headache. Kirk offered to help with a loan, which he unwillingly accepted. Thank God they were an hour early. Ray breathed a laboring sigh of relief after his brain-racking consultation with the wedding caterers and planners. The price and pressure to facilitate the adjustment almost gave him a heart attack, and he was going to be broke and mad with his old granny for a very long time.